So here we are on Coaching Call 2, and today we're going to talk about how to pick an ideal niche. So of course I've got Samara with me here on the call. Thanks for joining me here, Samara.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yep, absolutely. I know you've kind of been chomping at the bit to get started. It's been a whole week since our last call, and you're fired up, ready to go, right?
I am. It's been the longest week ever as I wait for the next set of instructions so I can get
Right.
cracking.
Yep, I know, and it's tough. And I was just saying a second ago that it's if you were to do this on your own, the process would go a lot faster, probably, right? You could do a lot of these steps all in just a couple of days, but we're spacing it out over a week so we can document it on the blog and get the audio recordings and do everything. So I appreciate your patience as we go through this, and of course, I appreciate everybody's patience listening in as well. That they want it, right now, I'm sure. But I promise that we'll get to every step, and that when we do, I think we're going to have a great set of instructions that people can follow along
Awesome.
on their own as well. So,
That's good.
as I go through this, as you can see, I actually have a presentation today. Our last call, we didn't have any formal presentation, so um, as I go through this, yes, there is there's slides, and I'm going to go through all of those, but please stop me and ask any questions, or if you need to go back or anything, don't hesitate to do that, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So today we are going to talk about how you can pick an ideal niche. On our last call, we talked about brainstorming ideas. So if you think about this as a funnel, right, we started at this wide mouth at the top of the funnel. We're just brainstorming all sorts of ideas and figuring out what you're interested in and what other people are interested in and that sort of thing. And now we're narrowing down that funnel is what we're going to be doing today, hopefully, so that funnel is just one niche at the end of the day. And so we're going to talk about that entire process here and how we do that. So before I dive into picking our specific niche, I feel like last time I didn't do a good enough job of discussing, what's the end goal here? What's the end product? So I wanted to talk about what does a successful niche site look like, first of all, okay? And this maybe will clarify for you and listeners what we're trying to do here. So a successful niche site is one that really helps readers or customers find answers and solutions to their questions or problems in your chosen niche. And I phrase that in a way to realize the customers and readers come first. It's not search engines that we're building sites for, okay? And for our particular case study here, we're going to be building a site that has hundreds of articles based on hundreds of very low competition keywords. All right, so we're not building a 1-page or a 10-page or 20-page site here. We want to build a large site that is a true resource. And this means we're not targeting just one keyword. We're targeting all of them in a sense, okay? So we're going into a niche and we want to dominate that. Yes, that's going to take time, and so you have to start small. So in the first few months, yes, it might only be a 20-page site, right? But it will perpetually grow. We're going to always continuously add more content as we continue to see success. So if it keeps making more and more money, we'll add more articles over time. So it might take a couple of years to get to this humongous website, but that is the goal, right?
Okay. I have a question. When you
Yes.
say, this is probably silly, but when you say pages of content, that's every article is one page of content, or how does that work?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So each article, you might call it a post or a page, but it's its own piece of content, its own page, right? So when I say hundreds of pages, I mean, yeah, hundreds of articles, each article targeting a different keyword.
Okay. So are what we building, are we building an authority site essentially,
Sure,
or?
you can call it an authority site, call it whatever you want.
Okay.
It's a large niche site if you want. A lot of people used to talk about micro niche sites that were only 5 or 10 pages. Um, if that makes more sense to call it an authority site, then yes, that's exactly what we're building.
Okay. And are we doing it, are we going big because these small sites no longer work, or what's this? Why is this the strategy?
Well, a smaller site still works. The strategy is, and maybe this is my own reasoning. It's not per se a Google reason or something like that. It's just that I think it's important to think bigger from the very beginning, from day one, right? So we're going to be putting all of this effort in, and if our end goal is only to make $300 a month, or $500 a month, which $500 a month is great, don't get me wrong. But if by making some small tweaks in our thinking, if we can suddenly have the potential to make six figures a year, I think that's just so vitally important. So that's the reason. We're just thinking bigger here.
Okay.
Right?
Great.
So
yeah.
It's definitely going to start small. Like I said, it might be a few months. Might even be 6 months and we only have 30 articles, right? So a smaller niche site. But if that niche site is making money, and for every new piece of content, if we make an additional, X dollars per month, it just makes sense to not limit our vision and said, well, we hit our 30 articles, we're not going to add any more content. We want to go in thinking big, picked a niche that can support hundreds of articles that can grow into something quite large.
Okay.
So, and I think that is a good clarifying point. I'm glad you asked that. I know you asked that in an email exchange or something similar that is very good to clarify. So we are more concerned with answering specific questions and targeting low competition keywords than we are with search volume of keywords. Okay?
Okay.
And we talked about that briefly on our first call as well. Just that search volume isn't the critical factor here in picking keywords. And then the main source of traffic still is search engines, and primarily through Google. So some of the articles that we create will be what might be considered pillar articles and linkable assets. These are, longer articles, very in-depth, very useful pieces of content, maybe media rich, that sort of thing. And others might just be short answers to specific queries. So we're going to have a very good mix of types of articles on our site eventually.
Okay.
We're also going to look at doing some social traffic, and this could depend on the niche that we go into. Some niches are much easier to get social media traffic. Others aren't quite as easy. And overall, we're more concerned with building a brand than we are with using things like exact match domains and link building shortcuts. And then the long-term goal is to build out a large email list and sell our own products if possible. Again, this is thinking big. This might not be within the first year, but if you build a great asset, it just makes a ton of sense to sell your own products. Your revenue is going to increase greatly. So any questions on those points? And then I have just a couple of example niche sites.
No, that sounds amazing.
Okay. So
I'd like to see it happen.
I don't know if this is what you signed up for, but this is what I'm coaching you to do.
It sounds good to me.
So hopefully that doesn't scare you off.
No, absolutely not. Oh my God, I'm more excited than ever.
Good. No, I'm glad. I'm excited as well. And I mean, the reason I do this now is, and I say now because for the past couple of years, these are the types of sites I've been building out. I haven't been building small little teeny sites since, I don't know when, 3 years ago. So this works very well, and so that's why we're moving into this method. Awesome. This is what I'm seeing work quite well. So here's just one site. This is owned by Ryan Deiss and the group over at digitalmarketer.com. Survival Life. Their niche is survival. Targeting the survival outdoorsy type person. And so this is just an example. You can go through this on your own time. Others can go through on their own time. But, they just rank for lots and lots of different keywords, all related to the survival niche. Okay, and so they, do-it-yourself paracord, Olympic National Park camping, tornadoes and blizzards. It looks like that's more of a newsy article. All sorts of things, right? So they've got hundreds of articles here, and I can tell you they do very, very well. And so that's one example of a niche site. Another is Outdoor Gear Lab. And again, I'm showing you some examples of some large sites that does take a lot of time to build, but this particular site, all they do is review outdoor gear and products. So it's a little bit different than Survival Life because they're more specific, looking at actual tents or backpacks, right? And they write a very detailed review on all sorts of different backpacks and that sort of thing. So they rank for a lot of keywords that they then monetize using Amazon Associates and other things. Now, here is an example of a smaller / newer niche site that I just sort of discovered along my journeys here. This one is called HydrationAnywhere.com. I think they get around 1,500 to 2,000 unique visitors a day. So it's a little bit smaller. They've just gotten started, but they review everything from water bottles to anything hydration related. Okay, so these are just a few examples. And again, this one's kind of smaller, but eventually they will probably grow it if they keep adding articles into a much, much larger website. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, awesome. So now that we've gotten an idea of what a successful niche site looks like, we should also talk about the big picture for the project. What are the steps that we're going to follow? What are the calls that we're going to go through to get there, to get to that successful niche site? And again, I probably should have done this on our first call, and we did a little bit, but this is going to be a little bit more organized. So in our first call, we did a brainstorm for general market and niche ideas, and I'm going to be sharing some of those ideas that you came up with here in just a minute. And then today, we are going to pick a niche through keyword sampling and what I like to call site doppelgangers. So we'll go into what that is in a second, but that's our call today. And then our next call, or our next step at least, is to then begin in-depth keyword research. We're going to find hundreds of low-competition keywords to create content on. Step 4, what problem is your site solving and how will your site stand out? Next is picking a domain name, how to pick a WordPress theme, a logo, developing a voice for the content, and more details to help build out a real brand for your website. And then we're going to develop a long-term content strategy and what that looks like. We're going to talk about either how to hire or write your own articles and how to publish that content and what to include so that it ranks well in Google. We'll then talk about a monetization strategy, both short and long-term strategies, and also possible product ideas. Again, I think that's important to think of from day one. And then we'll go into how you get noticed by doing outreach, PR, building linkable assets, that sort of thing. We'll talk about social media strategies. Then we'll talk about maximizing revenue through list building. We'll talk about paid traffic strategies, if that's applicable here. And then finally, long-term strategies to continue growing. Okay, so as you can see, the overview of the project, the scope is quite large. The beginning here is of course very critical to get us started along the right path, and then as we go, we're going to just think about how do we grow this, how do we build it out into a bigger asset than we've started with. So does that sound good?
That sounds awesome.
Okay. Does that raise any questions right now? Or are you ready to just dive into picking a niche through keyword sampling?
I think I'm ready. I think it's funny that monetization comes so much later in the whole process. Now I would have thought that it comes sooner, but it comes quite late.
Yeah, and I mean, we will be thinking about monetization all the way here as we do keyword research and more of just thinking, can we monetize this?
Okay.
Right? Not so much. You're right. It won't come until later, until we actually have some content on the site that we'll think about, okay, how can we maximize the potential here? Right? So we'll at least think early on, do these keywords have commercial value and that sort of thing, but we're not going to pick whether we go with Amazon Associates or Google AdSense or create our own product or whatever until later on.
Okay, sounds good.
So, all right, awesome. So let's talk about how to pick a niche through keyword sampling. All right. So I want you to think of sampling just like you would if you were to sample some ice cream. Maybe you've gone into, Baskin Robbins or any ice cream shop. You know, they have a ton of flavors, right? You ask for a sample to make sure you like it. So that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to just be getting some very small samples of keywords just to get a taste. All right. Just to get an idea of, is this a good niche or not? All right. So this is different than, perhaps our next call after we picked our niche, when we go dive deep and do actual real keyword research, keywords that we're definitely going to be using, that sort of thing. Right now it's just a sample, okay? And so the way that we're going to do that is we're going to go over to Longtail Pro, of course, and we're going to input 10 or so quick seed keywords using some best practices that I've listed right here. So for seed keywords, more specific seed keywords are better. And I think I repeated myself there, but the next point is, anyways, ignore all the doubles there. Wow. So we're going to consider using modifiers like best, reviews, how to, versus, under, for, etc. And there's tons of modifiers in Longtail University, of course, but this is just a small sample of those. We're then going to sort to only show the more long tail keywords, and I'm thinking right around 4 words or more is a good way to quickly get a good sample of keywords to see if there's some really low competition keywords in this niche. Then we might filter based on words like best, reviews, etc. And then we're going to look for keywords with under a 30 KC. And I know I went over that really quick, but we're actually going to go through some examples, so it'll make a lot more sense, I believe. So let me see if our next slide, nope, that's getting ahead of ourselves. So let's go ahead and dive into some examples. And to do that, I'm going to actually pull up your brainstorm list. This was your assignment from last week, and so you should be able to see that now as well.
Yep.
Okay, and so you went through and you made a list of how many potential niches did you list down here?
I think there's something like 60 or around 60.
Yeah, so quite a bit. And you labeled these, of course, your interest or hobbies, other people's interest or hobbies, Amazon and eBay, and then problems and frustrations. And you highlighted, how did you highlight these? What was the criteria for highlighting these?
These are just things I think that I would be most interested in exploring, although, I'm pretty flexible. I think I like most of the things on the list, and I probably could work with any of them if they show enough potential.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And so maybe I'll let you pick one of these. Let's get a keyword sample on one of these highlighted ones. Is there any that you'd like to try, or do you want me to just grab one, or?
You grab one.
Okay, let's look at the kickboxing one here. Okay, that one's kind of different. So like I said, more specific seed keywords are better. So I don't want to just input kickboxing per se. That can maybe be one of the seed keywords, so we could start with that. But what I really want to do, if I can get Longtail Pro to come over here, there we go. So we'll input kickboxing. Do you know much about the niche off the top of your head? Do you know any other good seed keywords?
I'm going to have to say I don't.
Okay. So let's maybe see if there's any products in the kickboxing niche. All right. So that would make it a lot more specific. So if I go over to Amazon again, and I'm going to just input kickboxing. Let's see what pulls up. Well, I can already see a few down here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Kickboxing gloves for women. That's a nice specific keyword.
Wow, so none of the words on my list are specific enough.
On your brainstorm list?
Yeah.
No, but that's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for... You did exactly what you were supposed to.
Oh, okay.
Yep. No, so you just wrote down the general niche, and that's exactly what I wanted. So, if we decided kickboxing was the niche we wanted to go into, we would just create a site on kickboxing or maybe kickboxing for women, depending on our keyword research, right? But then each article that we wrote would be very specific, right? So we might write an article, kickboxing gloves for women. That wouldn't be our website, but that would be one article on our website.
Okay.
So let's go back over to Amazon. Where did that go here? So kickboxing. I'm going to just hit enter here. So there's, I kind of like the some of the seed keywords that it pulled up. Kickboxing bag. Okay, let's do that. Kickboxing bag. Maybe kickboxing DVD. And like I said, we're going to maybe do up to 10 seed keywords here. So again, I'm just kind of looking at some general ideas. So I saw shin guards. So why don't I put, I'll just input this specific one. See how that does for us. 70-pound MMA heavy bag.
Okay. Wow, you can go super specific.
Sure. Let's see what Longtail Pro pulls up.
Okay.
70-pound MMA, what was it? Heavy bag? That maybe is a little too specific. We might not get a lot of results, but, hey, we're just testing things out here. Just kind of freewheeling here. Martial arts shin guards. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Nope, me neither.
Did I miss a word there? Martial arts. Martial arts shin guards. And I'm going to go back to our presentation. I had some tips on consider using modifiers like best reviews, how to. So maybe let's do a how-to. Maybe how to learn kickboxing.
Okay.
Or we could do under. So let's do. I wonder if there's another word. I guess martial arts is a good one, but let's do how to learn kickboxing. Maybe a versus. Maybe we can find some brands and do this brand versus this brand. So maybe there's some brand of gloves. Let's see here. Let's see our boxing and kickboxing gloves. So Everlast is certainly...
Grappling gloves.
Oh, is there grappling gloves there?
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Well, there's sparring gloves. Interesting. Okay. So let's do, maybe let's input those. Grappling gloves and sparring gloves. These all might turn out to be the exact same thing. Probably just under MMA gloves. Grappling gloves, sparring gloves. We're just getting a very small taste. We've only gotten into gloves and bags and shin guards. There's got to be so many other things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's maybe try one more. What do you think here?
Did you want to do the brand versus brand?
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. So maybe Everlast is obviously popular here.
Okay.
Versus, let's do another little trick. Let's go over to Google. And let's let them autocomplete it for me. Everlast versus M&M. That can't be right. Everlast versus Miller. What is that? I have no idea. Everlast gloves versus twins. What does that mean?
Oh, Google Instant.
I love it. Okay. Twins is one of the leading manufacturers of Muay Thai boxing gear. Okay, there we go. Everlast versus Twins. Let's try that. Let's just try this specific query. Google Instant is a fun game to play.
Totally.
So, let's just go with that for now. We're going to hit generate keywords. And after it's done, we'll come in here and we'll change the number of words and that sort of thing. So I'm going to let that run here for a second. Oop. And it will just take a couple of minutes to pull in the data. It's getting it now, of course. But what we'll do then is we're going to filter it down. And again, let me come back to my presentation to share what we're going to be filtering it down. So we got our specific keywords with modifiers. Then we're going to sort to only show the more long tail keywords. So we're going to input 4 words or more. I'll show you how to do that. But the whole idea here is, we've spent, we'll spend 5 or 10 minutes on this particular niche, right? And we just want to see how quickly from our sample do we find keywords that we could potentially rank for, keywords that are really low competition. And what you're going to do is you're going to compare niches is kind of what you're going to do, is after getting a sample of maybe your top 5 niches or so, you're going to think about, okay, how easy was it to find really easy to rank for keywords in the kickboxing niche versus the gardening niche, okay? And that's going to help you sort of rate one niche above the other.
Okay. And when you say low competition, what numbers are you talking about?
So right now we're going to be calculating the keyword competitiveness, and we're going to be looking under 30. So we want to see how quickly can we find keywords that have a keyword competitiveness under 30. Oh,
so that's all we're looking for is a KC of less than 30.
That's all we're doing right now, yes, for this step. And then in just a couple of minutes after we do that, we're going to start looking at the actual results within Google and seeing if we can find any really weak types of sites. Okay, and we'll go into that here in just a second. So we've gotten through about, it looks like about 6 of the keywords at this point.
Here's a question. Okay. Since I live outside of the U.S., even though Longtail Pro is, the search is set on the U.S., will my results be kind of, changed in any way? Or I know that I remember when you did the project with Perrin, you guys were in different parts. He was in Chicago, I think, and you guys had kind of different order or sometimes different results in the top 10 sites in Google, for example. So I wonder if I'm outside of the States, will my answers be skewed in some way or?
Yeah, that's a good question. Within Longtail Pro, we do all that we can to remove any localization of results. So generally speaking, you should get the exact same results as somebody living within the U.S. Now, as you saw with Perrin and I, even within the U.S., there are some slight differences sometimes. And that's perfectly normal. I mean, Google is a constantly, you might search for one query today and the results are different tomorrow, at least a little bit, right? One new site showed up and one isn't showing up anymore. So generally speaking, it's going to be exactly the same. We actually look at that within the software itself to, you're living in Spain, let's give her the results that people in the U.S. are actually seeing. Okay. So that actually is built into the software.
Okay.
And so let me see if I can pull this back over. There we go. So it's just finished going through the keywords. We got about, 4,700, almost 5,000 results there. And so let's pull up the number of words. And let's just remove advertiser competition for now. And yeah, I said let's see how many we can find. We're going to select all the keywords. How many that have 4 or more words. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to see those really long tail. Usually the longer the phrase, often the easier it is to rank for, okay? And so, boy, we got 1,500 results here. So there's a ton. There's no way I'm going to go through 1,500 results and calculate all of these. So let's actually... And part of this is sort of data, right? I'm thinking in my head, wow, I got 1,500 results with 4 words. Let's try 5. So that's, I'm left with 420. And what I'm seeing is a lot of kickboxing classes in Los Angeles. So we'll calculate some of these, even though, these might not be ideal. How to get into MMA. And really what I would like to do, as I mentioned in the presentation here, let me go back to this, is I want to filter based on words like best and reviews and that sort of thing. I'm just quickly looking to see if there's any product type keywords that are really easy. So there we go. I typed in best. I'm left with 65 keywords. Boy, even that's a lot. You know what I mean? To go through each of these individually, but let's try and click on some that are different. I can see that these first 2 are very similar. Best boxing gloves for women, best kickboxing gloves, best boxing gloves for training, best hand wraps for boxing, best cardio kickbox workout DVD. And a lot of these aren't related to kickboxing, right? So these are home workout DVDs that maybe I wouldn't even look at per se. I want something with kickboxing.
Best sparring gloves. I don't know.
Yeah.
Best boxing gloves.
Best sparring gloves for boxing. Boxing gloves for heavy bag. Best training. And so yeah, no, there's quite a few here. A lot of them are very similar. There's going to be some overlap. I can already see. They're similar phrases, but I might come in here and type in reviews or review. And this gives me an idea of, okay, here's some, long tail keywords. And again, I'm not worried about the number of searches. See, these only get 10 or 20 or 30 searches per month. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just trying to get an idea of the types of keywords that are in this market. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all those, and then let's type in kickboxing and see if we get anything besides kickboxing classes. Most of these are how to become.
Could you put in like a negative word like classes, right, to eliminate those from the search? Is that possible?
Yeah. So put a negative there. So yeah, we just did that. Eliminated everything that said classes in it. And we could. Let's see how long a phrase we can get here. Got some really long phrases. And so if you want to look at the ones get searched for, I mean, it's only 70 times a month, but where can I buy a punching bag? Do you think that's a valuable keyword? I mean, that's about as valuable as I can get. Like, I want to buy a punching bag. Where do I buy it? If you show up number 1 for that and send them over to Amazon, how many of those 70 people do you think are going to buy a punching bag? Probably, 10%, 20%, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah,
and again, this goes into a whole other thing, so maybe I shouldn't go into it. But again, the search volume doesn't matter. You might get tons of variations. So we might write an article titled, "Where can I buy a punching bag?" Right? Or targets that specific keyword. But you might also get searches from hundreds of very similar, they might type in, "Where can you buy a punching bag?" And really, you're still going to rank for that. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, all right. So this is a good, just quick sample. All right. So now what I want to do is we've calculated the KC on, 20 or 30 keywords. And I'm just trying to, where did they go? They're there. So just very quickly, you can see that I've got several that range from 13 to 30. So, how many is that? Almost 20 keywords? All right. So I did get a quick sample, and you could go in much more depth, right? But this is just a very quick sample that we're going to utilize to compare to other niches when we look at these, okay?
Okay.
And so this is step one. We've got a quick sample. We see that there are several that are under a KC30. And then next we want to look at the actual results. What kind of websites are ranking for these keywords? And that's where we're going to go into step two here.
So we go into step two, obviously, because there's a good number of keywords with a KC of under 30. But if none of them were under 30, or if there wasn't,
right,
we would move on to the next.
Yeah, we would. Okay. Yeah, for some niches, it becomes rather obvious right up front that, this is super competitive.
Okay.
So exactly, we would move on. The next thing, and again, I sort of made this phrase up, right? But find your website doppelgangers. So you know what a doppelganger is?
Yeah, it's like your twin or something?
It's right. It's like your long-lost twin, right? So, no, it's like, you think about lookalikes. There's people, celebrity lookalikes, but your doppelganger is somebody that looks almost just like you, and it's like kind of scary. You found your twin, right? So you're kind of trying to find your twin as far as a website. Can you find any websites out there that are either newer, because you're going to be a brand new website, or that have very low authority, that are weak overall, like you, because you're just getting started and you have no authority? And if they can rank at the top of Google, there's no reason you can't rank at the top of Google as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that's now what we're going to be looking for. That's what this phrase says. But if you can find a weak site that is newer, just like you, ranking on the first page of Google, you might have hit a jackpot. Okay, so these doppelgangers can also reveal great keywords and prove that success is possible very quickly. So that's what we're going for. So if we start looking at the results in Google and everybody is really authoritative and it's really competitive niche, then we know to avoid it. So specifically what we're going to be looking at is sites with a domain authority under 25 or so, because a 25 is a relatively low number that's pretty easy to achieve. Okay, and so if there's sites that are ranking on the first page of Google and they have really low domain authority, there's no reason you can't do the same. And then I also like to look for sites that are less than a year old. I say this isn't required, but it's ideal. Okay, so there still might be sites that are 2 or 3 or 4 years old that have really low domain authority, and that's a great sign, but the best sign is if they're also brand new. Okay, so ideally you can find the combination of both, a DA of 25 and less than a year old. So here's how we're going to analyze that. Well, before we analyze them in SEMrush, we're going to actually take a look in Longtail Pro at our keyword sample to see if we can find any, okay? So we just found a bunch of keywords, and then we're going to just pull up the top 10 results. And we're going to just look at the overall domain authority, okay? So we've already got a couple. The first two, are you seeing this? The first two in Longtail Pro have under 25. The first three, actually. Mm-hmm. So really low domain authority. And what's cool is we actually found one that's only 9 months old, or it's not quite a year old, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fightgeargeeks.com and evolvedmma.com and fightstorepro.com all have very low domain authority. That's a really good sign. And so I would actually go through a few of these. I would copy and paste all of these domains into like a spreadsheet. And actually, I'm going to share a spreadsheet with you here at the end. Okay, so what are the best MMA gloves? And I clicked on the next one, best boxing gloves for heavy bag. This also does have actually has a few websites. Okay, so let's maybe just look at these two just to give, again, a sample of what we're trying to do here. So it's a really good sign we're finding weak sites that are ranking at the top of Google with really low domain authority, and even one less than a year old. So we're going to then take that. So let's take this one. Where did it go? Here it is. Looks like Fight Gear Geeks. We'll do a couple of these, but fightgeargeeks.com is one that's relatively new. And in fact, they just wrote this article. Oh, well, that's 2014. So I wonder if they backdated their article, because the site itself isn't even that old. Interesting. To make it look older.
That's a good sign, no? That the content isn't so recent? Is that a good sign, or is that
right?
My
yes. Yep, that is a good sign. Definitely. If newer content can rank at the top of Google, that's like finding your twin, right? You're a new site. You're a weak site. They can do it, so can you.
Okay.
Is the whole thinking here. So we're going to go over to SEMrush. I'm not sure how familiar you are, but with SEMrush. But
not very.
Okay. SEMrush basically it finds what keywords websites are ranking for, kind of like a reverse index. Okay, so you pop in fightgeargeeks.com and it shows you that it's ranking for best boxing shoes, best MMA gloves. It's ranking number 1 for best boxing shoes, best MMA gloves number 2. Anyways, it's kind of cool. Shows all the keywords that they're ranking for.
Mm-hmm.
And it also shows you the traffic that they're getting. So this website is getting right around 500 organic visitors from Google a day.
This is daily. Okay.
Daily. Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And so you would kind of take a mental note of this and go, a brand new site, less than a year old, is already ranking number 1 for some decent keywords here. And they're getting 500 unique visitors a day, and they're growing. All right, so let's look at a second one. Let's look at evolvedmma.com. And if I'm moving too quickly here, let me know. I know I am kind of going through a few examples relatively quick.
Okay.
Does this make sense why this is turning into like a very interesting niche?
Yes. And also I see that you can see the keywords they're ranking for, and that also gives you ideas of what to write your articles about.
Absolutely. Big time.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. So they're ranking number 1 for best MMA gloves. And, what was their domain authority? Like 2016? It's like, I should definitely be writing an article on that.
Okay.
Right? And so, exactly, that's what I do. Like, I probably wouldn't have thought of best MMA mouthguard on my own. Right? But now, or, anyways, a lot of these. But now I would come in here and go, well, I'm going to write an article on that.
Right.
So you can see that they are also growing relatively quickly, and they get about 1,200 unique visitors a day. So 1,200 isn't a huge number, but that's getting into the interesting area for sure. Okay. So a low authority website getting lots of great organic traffic is something that we could do very easily. All right. And then the other cool thing about SEMrush is you can also look at their competitors. So you can, in fact, here's fightgeargeeks.com right here that we just looked at. Mm-hmm. But you could click on the Muay Thai guy, right? And you can go over to his website, and we can see that he's getting, 5,000 unique visitors a day, and we can see all of his keywords. Of course, to find his, why not? Let's take a look and find what his domain authority is. You just go over to Longtail Pro, you go into the quick add and analyze, MuayThaiGuy.com, and the number one result, of course, is MuayThaiGuy.com, and that's going to pull in, of course, this is a little slower because we're recording everything, but he's got a domain authority of 26, so not incredibly high either.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So this is a way to quickly analyze a keyword sample in a niche, and then to, and if this continues to be interesting, I wouldn't have stopped there. If I really like this niche, I would start going into all these other keywords, right? They had a low KC score, and I would start trying to find these other, long lost twin websites, if you will, right? I would come in here and go, well, there is one down here, heavybagblueprint.com. I go, oh, there's another one. So the idea is the more weak websites you can find that are ranking in the top 10 of Google, the better. Okay. Right? So basically, as you're comparing these niches, the more niches you can find that have all these weak websites at the top, that's probably the better niche to go into.
Okay.
All right? Based on our keyword sample. I feel like I'm doing all the talking so far. Is this good stuff, or any questions?
No, this is good stuff. Is there like a specific number you use to decide whether a niche is interesting or not? Like, I don't know, how many interesting keywords there are, or, are there at least 50 with a KC of less than 30? Is there a metric you use, or it's just kind of your feeling?
Yeah, well, okay, so let me give you the honest answer, and then let me give you the answer that you should probably follow. If it's me, honestly, I don't go through and, figure out a specific number. I don't go, okay, are there 50 great keywords here? Are there 50 really weak websites? I don't document all that. At this point in my career, I go more with intuition and gut feel, right? Okay. So I go in and basically do just what we did, but I sort of keep it in my head rather than writing it down on paper. I go, oh, that's interesting. Looks like there's dozens of really weak websites, and here's one. Often I'll find one website that is really weak and it's getting a lot of traffic, and that's enough. I go, that's the one. I'm doing that. Like, okay, that guy can do that. No question. I'm just doing it. Right? Okay. So that's the honest answer, and that's okay for people listening. They can do that. But actually, at the end of this call, I have a checklist and a spreadsheet. I'm going to ask you to document some things so that you can compare your niches, and you can, hopefully, by going through this process, there'll be a clear one or two winners.
Okay.
Right? So I don't have a specific number, but I'm going to ask you to at least document what you're doing here, and as a group, we'll be able to see which one's better.
Okay. And one other question. In SEMrush, when you're looking at the traffic...
Yeah, let me pull that back up. Yep.
Yeah. Would you say as long as the traffic is growing, it's an interesting website, or is there a minimum? Because the first guy had about 500 visitors. Is it worth stealing his, or kind of copying his, or stealing his keywords, or?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere you can find a great keyword, that's great. It doesn't matter per se what the website traffic is doing as far as stealing keywords.
Hello?
Can you still hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Spencer?
Can you still hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, just small connection issues. Sorry about that. But I was saying that yeah, as far as stealing these keywords, it doesn't matter so much what the traffic is. But to look at a website and go, okay, I want to model myself after this website, and website is enough to convince me to go into the niche itself. You do want to see something that's growing and, gets at least a couple of thousand organic visitors a day.
A couple thousand a day. Okay.
That would be ideal, right?
Okay.
Is if you can find something that's getting a couple of thousand organic visitors a day, that would start to convince me that it's a good niche.
Okay.
Is kind of how I look at it.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
As far as domain authority is concerned,
Yes.
I mean, it would take several years to get a domain authority of 25. Is that right? Or it depends on how fast you build your site?
No, you can definitely get a domain authority of 25 in less than a year.
You can? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So what does that mean that these sites that have been around for, one of the sites we looked at was like 3.7 years old and it had a domain authority of less than 25, that they're not growing it very quickly, or?
Right. It's not so much size as it is just overall authority, which is links typically.
It's links. Okay.
Yeah. So the authority of the domain, part of it is maybe based a little bit on age, but more so on links and who is linking to you, right?
Okay.
So one link from a really authoritative website, you'll have over a DA of 25 on day one, right?
Oh, interesting.
If you can get some amazing website to link to you, right?
Okay.
I mean, I can't think, anyways, so it's not just the sheer number of links, it's the quality of those links.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Right.
definitely under a year you can get over a domain authority of 25. That's very possible.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back here. I think I just have a couple more slides here.
Okay.
We went over this exact thing already. Using SEMrush, you can see what kind of traffic is possible. You can see what keywords they are ranking for. You can see other competitors, and then of course expand the vision for your site. That last point, expanding the vision for your site, is, maybe you see what they're doing. Maybe you see what angle they're attacking the niche from. Mm-hmm. With the idea being, you don't copy them exactly. Maybe you write about the same keywords, but maybe you can think about a unique product that you can sell or a unique way that you can approach the niche or the keywords, right? So you want to know what everybody else is doing and how do you stand out from the crowd a little bit.
I can't see your presentation. Are you looking at it?
I am. It must have, when our call dropped there, we must have dropped the screen share. So let me get that here.
And all this is possible with the free version of SEMrush? Because I know there's a free and a paid version.
You can, I'm trying to remember, I think you can do something like 10 queries a day, or maybe it's you only see the top 10 result. I think you only see the top 10 keyword results. So you can do most of it, I believe, with the free version. Okay. If you run into any limits, I will give you access to my account.
Oh, okay.
And so you don't have to worry about that. Sorry for everybody listening in. I'm not going to give you access to my account. Only Samara. But you can do most of it with the free account.
Okay. Excellent.
So let's dive into the actual checklist. All right. Mm-hmm. So is this a good niche? Here's a checklist that we want to follow through. And I do have all of these questions already in a spreadsheet. I'm going to share this with you so you can go through and actually do the checklist. So first, number one, am I interested in starting a long-term project in this niche? I know we looked at kickboxing, but you really need to internally look at yourself and go, do I want to be writing about kickboxing for the next couple of years? All right? So
Okay.
that's important. Number one, are you actually interested? Number two, can you easily produce 100 plus content ideas. All right. And again, that's just thinking about going back to the kickboxing niche. I think that that's very possible. We've already discovered, gloves, shin guards, heavy bags, training DVDs, how to actually do kickboxing. I think there's no shortage of content ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Just to, for example, kickboxing, no problem. And then from your keyword sample, how many keywords had under KC30? And again, this is a little bit ambiguous because you could go through thousands of keywords, but the idea with the keyword sample is only to go in for, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, and like we did, just very quickly sort and filter and, calculate the KC for maybe up to 50 keywords, right? And how many of those actually had it under a KC30? All right. How easy was it to find long tail keywords in this niche versus other niches that you tried? And you're going to rate those from easiest to hardest.
Okay.
From the under KC30 keywords, how many were weak? Those doppelganger sites did you find? And again, under DA25, less than a year. And then 6, using SEMrush, how many other weak sites was I able to find? So you might, like we did, look at the competitors and see a few others there. How much traffic do each of these sites get, the doppelganger sites get in SEMrush? And a maximum of 10 per niche is more than enough. You don't need to go in and find hundreds of sites in each niche and document how much traffic. Look at 10 maybe.
Okay.
Maximum. It might only be 5. So
okay.
Very, very loose here. And then 8, do I see the potential to create products in this niche? All right. So let's think about the kickboxing niche. Just off, since we looked at that one. Off the top of your head, can you think of any products that maybe you could create in the kickboxing niche?
Well, I mean, you could create any of them now. You could create your own gloves. You could create your own shin guards, I assume,
Mm-hmm.
no?
Yep.
I mean, everything we saw, right? Your own bag.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of what you're looking at here.
Okay.
Is there... It doesn't have to be physical product ideas, but certainly there's a lot in the kickboxing niche that you mentioned. Physical products, you could go out and source that and private label that and sell it on Amazon, no problem. There's probably also plenty of training products that you could create, whether that's, DVDs or videos. And I'm not sure how you are at kickboxing, but you might have to find somebody to help you create that.
Okay.
But yeah, there's definitely potential to create products in this niche.
Okay.
And number 9, can I think of any unique angles to stand out in this niche? Right? So that might take some time to think about, and maybe that's not a quick yes/no answer. But, in your research, you might think about, well, how could I be a little bit different in the kickboxing niche? Maybe it's kickboxing for kids, or maybe it's kickboxing for people over 50, or, what sort of unique angle can you bring to this niche, and is that possible, right? And that's not a deal killer, if you will, if you can't. It's ideal if you can come in and have a definite way that you're standing out from everybody else.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, awesome. All right, so your assignment from call 2 here is I want you to do keyword sampling for 3 to 10 potential niches. And again, that can be based on your brainstorm list here that you have. And you're going to go through and do 10 seed keywords like we did for each of those. You're going to do the filtering, the modifiers, etc. for all of those. You're going to calculate the KC, and you're going to then try to find the weak sites that rank in the top 10 for your 3 to 10 keyword samples. You're going to look for under 25 DA. I put 25 to 30, but under 25 is much better. Less than a year old, again, is ideal but not required. And let me see if there's... Yes, and then you're going to complete the "Is this a good niche?" checklist for your 3 to 10 potential niches. So let me just show you here. I do have this in a Google spreadsheet. I'll share this with you.
Okay.
But basically, I went through all of those questions right here. You see it up along the top. I put niches 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can change the name, so you can make this the kickboxing niche, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever niche it is, and go through each of these. Some are yes or no, and some are actual numbers. This one, how much traffic do each of the doppelganger sites get in SEMrush? I created another tab for, right? So as you go through the niches here, you're going to list up to 10 weak competitor websites. It might only be 3 or 4, or it might be 10. You're going to put the DA, the age, the amount of traffic from SEMrush, and the number of organic keywords. And I don't know that I showed you that in SEMrush. Let me just make sure you know where that is.
Okay.
So the number of keywords here is right here or right here. Okay. So this one's 8,200 keywords that it's ranking for in Google. So if I can figure out where my spreadsheet is again, I got too many things open. There we are. So yeah, I've got that listed here on this tab. You're going to go through that. You're going to go through the checklist. And I'm guessing that before you go through even all 5, you're going to have a good idea of whether or not these are good niches or not.
Okay.
So, does that sound good? Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I'm going to be a busy lady.
Yeah, I'm going to keep you busy.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense at this moment.
Right.
I have questions that arise during the process.
Yeah, I agree. I think as you do some keyword research, and some of these that you brainstorm have slightly different angles that you could go from. And so I'm sure some questions will come up there. Like one is nutrition, right? Do you tackle only healthy eating, or do you tackle exercise, or do you tackle, there's a lot of different angles you could go, right? Mm-hmm. And so if any questions come up there, yeah, let me know.
Okay. Excellent. Sounds great.
Okay. So it's a lot to take in. It's a lot of research to do. But honestly, I think a lot of these options that you have could work out. Just some will be easier than others, and some will be more difficult. And the idea here is to go after whatever's the easiest possible.
Okay.
Is what I think. And so for our next call, of course, we're going to review everything that you've done here, and we're going to narrow it down, probably privately, through email or whatever. We're going to start to narrow it down and maybe even pick our niche before the next call. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
But the next step in the process, and I guess if I go back to our very beginning at the presentation here, our next step here is to begin in-depth keyword research, where we start to find hundreds of low competition keywords to create content on. So we may use an outside example, or we may use your, exact niche, but that's the next step after this. Once you actually pick your niche through doing all of this research, we're going to come back and start doing actual keyword research for actual keywords that we hope to use on our website.
Okay. Great.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Okay.
So I don't know if we're going to like this style of me actually having a presentation and going through so much, but we covered a lot. Hopefully it was useful.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Okay. I'm ready to get cracking. Thank you so much, Spencer.
Yep. No problem. I thank you for your patience this week waiting for this next call, and I know you're excited to get going, so I'm going to let you do that.
Okay, and I'll be in touch with as I progress. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. That sounds great.
Great.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye.